Hello, viewers. Welcome back. This has come up in different sessions, and it's a question that keeps being asked. So I wanted to again explore this a bit. This one is asking. People sometimes accuse each other of being defensive. I find so. I wanted to just throw around some ideas and have a bit of a play with the idea of why do people get defensive in relationships? Okay, so if we just I'm just going to go and just sort of play with this idea and see if I can say some stuff that's helpful. But first of all, I'd probably say maybe be a bit careful saying to someone that you're being defensive. I always teach about working what we say like an H shape um, relationship. So if you're doing your best to own like what goes on for you as you're maybe if you're watching this you notice yourself being defensive or you think your partner's being a bit defensive, but maybe you can notice if it's the other person you can more acknowledge like what goes on for you as they seem to be defensive. I mean, you could say, oh look, I'm wondering why you when I asked you this you seem a bit held back. I'm not really sure. I'm not really sure what's going on. Okay, that could be because then that gives a bit of bouncing the ball back, so to speak, for them to have a bit of an explore and to wonder. And I'll go into that more in a second. Or maybe for you, if you notice how you're defensive, this can be a thing like yeah, like what is this? Because the things that it comes back to for me is is an issue with I guess maybe a self awareness. That would be one way to put it. Maybe some part of just like a connection with yourself that hasn't been resolved. That would be one big thing that would maybe come up for me. And other main things that will come up would be something just being what I call a bit of a hotspot. There's certain things. This comes up a lot when I help people who have had issue with people with like narcissistic traits. There's certain things people just don't really want to talk about that often. Like money can be quite a big one, and things like politics, religion, and things that have real like how we'd call it maybe I'd call it maybe like emotional hotspots. And there's certain topics people just tend to not talk about because they're so loaded and emotional. So with term like when we say if someone's being defensive, it can be quite good to more think of it like I think maybe apply it to ourselves, like things we feel defensive about, and then to kind of explore that more within us as a thing, like things we feel defensive about, and then more how can I say? I think so we're not being like again accusatory of another person. I think when we're thinking about being defensive in a relation, it can be quite good to think about how that's applying to us. Or if we're noticing come up, or if someone says, "Oh, it seems like you're being a bit defensive around this," really keep just keep having an inner journey and playing with like what this thing is. Like maybe it's a conversation about our brother or whatever, and just notice like what's the well if we say like the emotions and the emotional story, and this can be quite good. It can be brought out in a counselling session or in journaling. There's going to be sometimes like trapped emotions there, and your emotions can be sometimes linked to again your narrative, like your story about something and what this all like means and what went on. I find sometimes like a defensiveness can be because that kind of story, that hero's journey about what'll happen, that isn't really clear. We kind of don't know. Again, there's something lacking on a level if we call it like our own self awareness. So I think we're kind of defensive because that's actually unclear. So if someone may be just like asking about this, we kind of feel defensive because it hasn't actually integrated into who we are. So someone may be they could be non-intentionally or intentionally doing it, but someone's like prodding on something which becomes a bit of a hotspot because there's a truth of we maybe don't fully know. It's like this thing hasn't actually come through. So when we think about being defensive, if our partner is saying, "Oh, you're being they're experiencing you as being defensive. Again, really think about how you say that, and you can address with your partner, look, I don't appreciate this. It comes across as a bit of an accusation when you just say you're being defensive. Feel free to say that, because it's good if people can acknowledge what's going on for them, or hey, I noticed when I say this, you seem like you really recoil. I'm not really sure what's going on. There's a very gentle way to express this, which can, again, passing the ball back over the net to give the person a space to be with. But then again, it's that inner journey to be with, and to feel into what this thing is. And again, there's usually like an emotional story about whatever this is. Now, if that hasn't really integrated, this could again be someone can bring out with journaling, or maybe some maybe even therapy to help this come out, to become coherent. So there's the emotional story, or connected. If you're someone who's being accused of being defensive, and you don't really see it, I'd say, well, let's not necessarily. We don't have to make this into a problem. It's not like saying you can't be protective of yourself. So when I work with people who are dealing with challenging people in their lives, I don't doubt the challenging person may use terms like you're being defensive. It could be a possible attack. But sometimes when I work with people, I just believe, ultimately we can throw around words like, oh, you're defensive, or whatever, but anyone has the right to feel, as far as I'm concerned, to hold themselves in esteem, and to high esteem, and to create relationships that feel good, and that feel healthy and constructive. So here we can play with the idea that there's maybe certain things, like certain topics you may want to avoid with certain people due to what they bring up. Like people with narcissistic traits are very good at prodding, again, things like politics, religion, or maybe there's certain other things they kind of like bring up for the purpose of causing a reaction. And that could be something for them to say, oh, you're being defensive, to make it something about you. But your reality, and again, this can be something you can just explore through either through therapy or through practices like journaling, and just being with this. How just this topic, it upsets you, and you don't want to. Your truth is that you don't want to talk to this person about this. That's it, because you find them difficult and challenging. They make you feel kind of uncomfortable, and you want to avoid this. So this is where, going back to one of my programs, my Foundation Builder program, what I teach there is we're building the foundations with ourselves, always first. We're getting our bottom of the pyramid very strong, and then from then, it's after then, what's the best communication with the other person? There's, with other people in your life, there's the adult to adult communication, where we're being just assertive, honest, time appropriate, etc. But then also there's the clinical communication, and that's where we use, as a psychologist, and you said, the puppy dog analogy. Whereas they're just certain topics, we're just not going there, because we know how a person behaves. So it's kind of like a boundary exercise to keep certain things safe. So there's not necessarily an issue like you're being defensive. It's that you just don't want to discuss these things, because in terms of relationships in your life, exploring these things with this person just completely isn't something you want to do. Okay, but when we say it's about being defensive in relationships, I think I'm going to use that a bit in the sense of like, because I think that's why people may view this more in a sense of romantic relationships. And here, this can get a little bit more fiddly, because in this sense, romantic is usually we are trying to show up in an adult to adult space. So therefore, it's an issue. Well, if a partner's accusing you of being defensive about a certain thing, but you actually really don't want to go there, there can be the assertiveness of, well, look, I just don't want to talk about this. This topic really bothers me. Well, hey, that's obviously a completely reasonable thing to say. And then it's about, well, do they respect these boundaries, which is obviously one thing. But another way to look at it would be, if people are being defensive, but hey, it's actually quite it's an important topic. Like maybe, you want to actually talk about your future, etc., or maybe just where you're going to go on holiday if you want to have children together, or whatever this is. And then someone like repeatedly being defensive, that's where, well, hey, there needs to be, if we're trying to create an H-shaped relationship, that healthy one, there needs to be this constant back and forth of, oh look, I noticed whenever I raise that topic and you appear to be quite defensive. I'm wondering, what's going on, and if we're having this back and forth, this is where each person can keep practicing like the self first and the relationship second, and just being with what this issue is. Maybe it's about we use the having kids example. Maybe that's what someone's being defensive about, and again the emotional process hasn't been gone through on that internal level, like feeling the emotion of what goes on in the whole, and the whole like story about this of like wanting children or not wanting children, etc., for example. And that's where we can be with that on an individual level, and then once that I say something organically gets created, then that the adult-to-adult communication can come across, and then we come out of our defensiveness. Okay, so I hope that's given you some kind of play. But if we're just framing this just for ease about in terms of people just being defensive in a relationship, in a romantic relationship, I think the answer will be because someone hasn't, the individual hasn't gone through their own inner work, like their own emotional story hasn't quite integrated within themselves about this. So it could be that person needs just this bit of time and space to be able to go through this, for then conversations to be revisited. But then the other angle, be aware if someone's accusing you of being defensive, then that again is a story for you to be, if we take away, don't problematize it, so to speak, but being with, well, what's actually going on about this sort of this like topic or this thing, how are you feeling about everything, and then again there's some sort of emotional story there to materialize and ultimately to come out. Okay, so I hope you've got some insights around this, around like defensiveness. And again, my goal is always just around the empowerment of the individual to heal and make the best relationships possible. Feel free to like and subscribe and comment. I'll do my best to reply. If you'd like to work with me, feel free to reach out. There's a Calendly link, and you can book a discovery session directly. And I do sessions online or in person, 5 and 10 session packages. There's also my Foundation Builder program, which is all about building these foundations in yourself and building the best relationships with other people you may like too, which is all in the links below. And feel free to reach out anytime, and I will see you next time. Take care.